And now a few books in philosophy. This is end of summer 2014, new books. So I've got here a set of a few, but not all of them are here. This is this is plain cover, but you'll be able to see the side there. This is Emile Brehier. He was a French, I don't think he was a philosopher, but he was a historian of philosophy. So I don't think he came up with his own stuff, but I think he was just a historian of philosophy, which is great. We need those kinds of people. I think we really need them today, because I think actually what's happened is there's just been a loss of knowledge in philosophy today. I really don't think that faculty in universities are as informed they are on the past. I think a lot of them, even in philosophy, are just focusing on the problems of today, and there's a huge science bias, even in philosophy departments, as they move into philosophy of science. And I think they've lost a lot of the old knowledge. They don't. It doesn't seem to be continuing. Your graduate students are supposed to master your knowledge and then move on to something else. But I just don't think that is there a modern expert in Socrates today? Are people study these things in Plato and Aristotle? I just don't think it's done. And what happens is mistakes happen. Just like Descartes. Descartes didn't. I don't think he studied the ancients. He instead wanted to make up his own philosophy. He didn't begin with the ancients and their ideas. He just began with his own stuff, and because of that, he made mistakes that Aristotle, for example, didn't make. So I'm afraid that's happening today. Anyways, I think this one is volume 2, because I think there's one that goes before this one. This is Hellenistic and Roman. So this starts with Socrates, but there's all kinds of stuff before Socrates, like Thales, for example, and etc. Democritus, I think. And so this is volume 2, I think. I'll have to find volume 1 somewhere. I actually accidentally ordered 2 copies of that. I don't know why that happened, but here's the Middle Ages. I think this is volume 3. There's the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So this one has in it. These are from the Better Old Books, by the way. It doesn't name any names, but this will definitely have Aquinas and all that stuff. And it's got stuff on the East too, which is nice, because they're not often talked about. Basically, from the East, all you have is Confucius, but there are other people too. And then I have this one here, the 17th century, which I believe is the next one, unless there's the 16th. But it's already into the Renaissance and the other one, so the 17th probably follows. And then I think there's an 18th, and I think there's a 19th, and then I think that's finished. So this one has Descartes in it. Descartes, Hobbes, Spinoza. So now we're getting into that SubJohn Law. So that's great. So this is another fantastic. Was recommended as a great readable history of philosophy by Brehier. So I've got 3 of those. Hoping to find the first one though. And here is one more. This is by Adler. This is Aristotle for Everybody. This is the title. So Adler, Mortimer J. Adler, is a liberal education guy, 20th century. He wrote tons and tons of books. And in another video, I'm going to talk about his liberal education set, which I now have. But anyways, Aristotle is difficult to read. Plato is much easier to read and much more approachable by the average person, because Plato wrote in dialogue. And often with Socrates, and it's much easier to read dialogue, people talking back and forth. Aristotle wrote in narrative form, in essay form. And it's much harder to read Aristotle. And translators become a problem, because different words mean different things today. Sometimes you get a really old translator, they're using words that Aristotle wouldn't have used. I know there's a bit of a dispute in Aristotle in terms of whether he talked of gods or a god, and even in Plato a bit of that. And so there's a bit of a Christian spin on some of the translations of these ancients, because of course they were polytheists. So anyways, I thought this might be great, because Adler was definitely an Aristotelian. So this book might be great. It should be a fairly quick read, even if it's philosophy, because it's written in plain language. And this should be a great review, because I have studied some Aristotle, some basically bits and pieces of it from the metaphysics or from the De Anima, which is on the soul, or the ethics, of course, is great. The ethics and Nicomachean ethics. So this should be great. And I think I don't think people talk of relevance, and these thinkers don't go away. And I think what happens is people get all uptight that they're difficult to read, and sometimes it has to be difficult for you to learn anything. Often people read easy stuff and they learn nothing, and it's no doubt they learn nothing. You may have to struggle to learn something, and it's going to take some discipline. It's not easy to learn things. You really want to make good use of your time. It's going to require some effort and discipline. Sorry about that. That's just the world we live in. So you're just going to have to do that. Some texts are going to be hard to read, and you'll have to read them over, or you'll have to find a video on it, or ask someone, or you just have to do that. If you want to learn something, you want to get ahead, that's just what you have to do. When there's effort involved, there's an attrition cycle, isn't there? The harder something is, the less and less people are willing to do it and able to do it. But if you can do it, then you're that much better, and you've improved upon yourself. So, and I think that's what's going to have to happen today. I just think the education is just poorer and poorer, and the teachers and produced are poorer and poorer. So, many cases, unless you get a good education, you're lucky to get one. You're going to have to do some self-education. And then the next video I do, I'm going to talk more about that, because I've got Adler's set, which goes through all the good stuff. There's a science one, there's a philosophy one, there's a literature one, there's 2 literature ones. Anyways, I'll get to that one. So that'll be the next video. So this is the end of New Books for Philosophy.